So I'm going to go ahead and call this work session to order on ranked choice voting. We also have before us AO 2019-89S regarding filling a vacancy on the assembly. Let's start with introductions, starting on this side.
Dyson.
Felix Rivera.
Pete Peterson.
Nick Salatel.
Cameron Perez-Rodilla.
John Weddleton.
Matt Farina.
D.D. Smith.
Okay. So who wants to get us started? John, do you want to? Or Pete, since it's been your committee?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a unique situation here a year or so ago that when we were trying to fill a vacancy in West Anchorage. The two candidates kept getting 5 votes each, and eventually one of them decided to withdraw their name, and so the other person won. So we realized that there could possibly be a problem, and so we've sort of gone through and made some changes to the filling of a vacancy on the assembly here, and then the ranked choice voting became a part of that as we started to work our way through it. I don't have a synopsis of what all the changes are, but I'm sure we'll be going over those.
I can give that since.
Oh, good morning.
Done it. Good morning. I've joined.
Yes.
Thanks. Thanks, Pete. So, yeah, you explained that this is an ordinance which predominantly deals with filling a vacancy, but then specifically, I think we're talking mostly today about the ranked choice portion of it that John and Meg and Matt Farina, who's a guest here, we've all been working on for probably months now with Barbara and Dean. So what we're hoping to do is, John has some ballots for us, and we're going to do a little practice run and run through following the code language to make sure it's easy to understand. We want to make sure that this makes sense to anyone, not just Barbara, not just whoever's reading it now. So I think our plan was to just go through that, but we could also have Dean explain we all wrote this together, so, but if Dean wanted to add anything before we get going.
No, I think we're ready.
Okay.
Okay.
Since I have more, you could share some papers if you want.
Ms. LaFrance, are you on the phone?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Dyson, you have a question?
No, I just wanted to inform you that we have a cadre of students here from Eagle River High.
Okay.
And because what we're doing is a bit nuanced, I appreciate if we go out of our way to help these kids understand what we're doing. And I expect that you'll find them extra bright and thoughtful, and that their questions will be good ones.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Salatel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to say, in addition to, well, since with what Mr. Dyson said, just provide a little bit of additional context, which this utilizes the traditional method for filling a vacancy that the Assembly is used to, up to 3 rounds of voting, or if there are only 3 candidates left, because we'll probably hear more as we go along that ranked choice voting doesn't work if you don't have 3 candidates or more. But it does utilize that initial question, debate, vote system 3 times. So it's not a complete replacement of the old system. It's just a refinement of it to avoid that situation of a perpetual tie.
So just to clarify then, you have to go through 3. It doesn't matter even on your first time you have 3 people.
No, then it would go into the ranked choice voting at that point. I think the only other thing I would say that I found that I didn't know about is that although our ballots aren't public information at the time that we cast them, they become public after excuse me, the clerk's certification or announcement of the election results. And so that's one of the reasons as well why ranked choice voting wasn't the initial, like a full replacement, because if you had 12 candidates, you would be ranking potentially 12 individuals without necessarily having had all of the same vetting opportunities as it's traditionally been. That was part of that rationale.
Thank you. Mr. Whittleton, which I can tell this is obviously your handiwork.
I was involved. And I would say the title of this is Modify and Streamline the Process. And as we go through the ranked choice voting, it may look like it's not streamlined, but it is actually, could speed things up ultimately. And just while I'm on, Mr. Dyson, sorry, I wanted to sit next to Matt, so I switched our seats. So I apologize for not checking with you, but you weren't here, so I made the decision. Hope you're okay. Okay, so what I'd like to do is give Matt a moment to just talk about ranked choice and kind of where it's used and that it's fairly common and so on. Can you do that?
Sure.
All right, I'm Matt Farina. I did my master's capstone project on ranked choice voting for the municipality, and that is why I'm here helping them now. So that's where my information comes from. The version of ranked choice voting is used in many states. Maine specifically is the most prominent state that uses it. They use it for their Senate and House seats. And this last election cycle, 2018, was the first time they used it, and it actually played a role. There was 4 candidates, and none had a majority, so 2 of them were eliminated, and that ended up, the extra votes were redivided between the remaining 2 candidates, and one of them had over 50% of the vote. It wasn't much, it was a very close race. It was 48-43, I believe, so it was very close. It's used at many college campuses to elect their student governments, and it's used in many states to elect military voters, so they don't have to have a runoff ballot and send them again. So you can get military votes overseas using ranked voting, so you don't have to do it twice. It's also used in many municipalities, such as 3 in California, I believe, and 4 of them in Massachusetts. It's generally effective as it works the first round, so there's not 3 or 4 rounds. So that's what I include.
First round going through the process. You would go through there's one vote.
Yeah.
Okay, but you mean rounds of going through the calculation.
Yes.
Right. I think could add too, it's, we have for mayors, have to get a majority. I think we're 45% plus 1. Is that what it is?
So what we've ended up doing often, if there's an open seat for mayor, you can have 12 candidates fairly easily. So we typically end up with a runoff, and that's extremely expensive and it's time consuming because it takes at least a month. So you got your mayor candidates time to get transition is cut substantially shorter. So were we to do something with ranked choice, at the mayoral elections, we could save a huge amount of money and time if we were to do ranked choice. But that's not what we're dealing with here. This is kind of very, very much a baby step to say, okay, and I would say in most cases, 2 of my chances of filling the interim seat, once immediately first round of voting, we had someone had a majority, and the second time we got trapped in that tie. And this would not prevent that. You could end up with 2 candidates and you tie, and we deal with it, flip a coin. If after a certain point you can't get a decision. So, but we can walk through this. So you have
Actually, before you do that, Mr. Presbyterian has a question.
Yeah, I guess I'd like someone to start the sentence, rank voting is, and then give an explanation of what it is we're talking about, so that we can all be on the same page, because you're talking around it, but I'm not sure we all know exactly what we're talking about.
We're about to do it. Thanks.
So ranked voting is a system where each voter ranks the candidates they prefer in the order, so 1, 2, 3 until all the candidates are ranked, or however many they want to rank. Then once all the ballots are cast, the ballots are counted in a system that keeps track of who voted, how many first place, second place, third place, and fourth place votes each candidate has. If no candidate has a majority of all the votes, the candidates with the least amount of votes are eliminated in the order of least and up. So if you have 4 candidates and 2 of them have 40%, then the other bottom 2 split the last 10. Those 2 candidates are eliminated, and then whoever voted first for those candidates, their vote is then transferred to whoever they ranked second. And then the votes are retallied. So if no candidate, at that point, one of the 2 remaining candidates has to have 50% of the vote.
Thank you. Ms. Quinn Davidson?
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. If it's okay with Meg and John and Matt and Dean, I'd just like to start at 5 so that we can kind of follow along in the language. And this is where we begin the voting process so that it will see the order that it will occur when we're up there. And then we can get into the ranked choice piece. Just to set some context, yes, at the bottom of page 4. And so as Meg mentioned, we're going to start with the traditional voting system, and that might render a person that we select for the vacancy, but it might not, and that's when ranked choice will come into play. So A is that the clerk prepares and distributes ballots, and in that case, they're just single ballots, so they just have each individual's name on it at that point. And then in B, we all vote. So at this point, you're just voting for one person. And then in C, the clerk gathers the ballots and tallies the votes and announces the votes for each applicant. So this is the typical process. It looks as if it's in new language with the underlines because we wrote it more clearly. And then in D, it describes that a majority vote is required to appoint through that process. So we would need 6 members to appoint someone through the traditional process. And that is the case now. If no...
Excuse me, say that again.
So all of what we've read so far is what we do now, which is that you need a majority to appoint.
Excuse me, if I may, for those in the audience, that all these municipal races are non-sectarian. They're not identified by party, and there's no primary system like there traditionally is in most elections to narrow down the number of candidates. So this is a way to streamline that process. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Dyson. Yeah, that's correct. We're nonpartisan, which I think is a positive thing. So D describes that in each of those cases, if we were, say, for instance, to have 10 candidates and 8 candidates got some number of votes, but 2 did not, we would eliminate those 2. Then we would do another round, and if there were 2 more, 3 more who got no votes, we would eliminate those folks. And so we would do that for up to 3 rounds until we until we had 3 candidates remaining. That might happen after 1 round. Maybe you have 5 candidates, and after 1 round, you have 3 candidates remaining. And at that point, that is when the ranked choice kicks in. And so that's E. We can continue debating and discussing through all these rounds of votes. And in E, we talk about distributing a ballot to be used for ranked choice voting with only the remaining applicants' names. So that is what Mr. Weddleton has prepared, which is a fictional but potentially more exciting ballot with names. So in this situation, we are able to vote for Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson, I don't know who that is, James Gordon, Diana, something Mr. Weddleton could pronounce more correctly.
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman, oh, I see. Harleen Quinzel and Lex Luthor. I'm not the right person to read those, obviously, since I know 2 out of 6 of them. And do we want to read through the language first? What would be most helpful to the members? Read through the language or just read through it as we're doing it? Seems like reading through it as we're doing it might be helpful. Getting some nods here. Okay.
Yeah, reading through it would be good, and I'd like to just clarify too, we're not proposing using this for our general elections. This is only for the rare case where we're filling an interim seat after 3 rounds, so it'd be pretty scarce to do this. So we're just, anyway, finding our comfort level. So do you want to walk through it then? So
Sure.
you have in front of
both
you
can. Yeah.
brief descriptions of the candidates. In this case, we are filling seat 6L, which doesn't exist yet. However, after we redistrict into 6 two-person districts, there will be a seat 6L. So we have, we've narrowed it down at this point to these 6 candidates. And there's quite a breadth of skills and type of people who you would choose from.
So I think we should probably all vote, and that's consistent with F, which is each assembly member should then rank each applicant on the ranked choice ballot, which you have, by writing 1 next to their first choice, 2 next to their second choice, and so forth, until all applicants on the ballot have been ranked. After that, the municipal clerk, which is John for today and Matt, will gather the ballots. So let's go ahead and do that.
I'm going to vote 2, though.
You can vote too, yeah.
Yeah, we need 10.
I can vote.
I need one of those two. One of the students. When you guys want to vote, we need an extra vote. We need a student.
Yeah, just tell me that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Or we should put our names on there too.
Oh yeah, and John's reminding us to please put our names on the top.
I do want to check, Ms. Quinn Davidson, you're no relation to Harley Quinn, are you, as a candidate here?
Not that I know of, no.
Do we let the audience participate?
I think someone did.
We are.
So a couple people are voting in the audience, yes.
I'll collect the ballots. The clerk will do.
Okay, the clerk's assistant, Mr. Farina, is collecting the ballots. So we've all ranked 1 through 6 for the 6 candidates, 1 being the candidate we want the most, and 6 being the one we want the least. So now we're on to step G. The municipal clerk shall tally the results with each ballot representing 1 vote for the highest ranked applicant on that ballot. There's a reference to inactive ballots, which are defined later. Those aren't counted. So Matt's going to tally that, and then we'll come back to the language.
Yeah. So right now I'm just copying the ballots off this into this Excel spreadsheet so everyone can see how the process would work.
Matt, can you explain what the seats mean, 1 through 10, please?
Oh yeah, the seats are just the assembly seat. Yeah. So each member, because
No,
like
that's us.
the clerk would have this with your names on there, but since it's generic, it's just each. There's 10 assembly seats voting for this appointment. So I'm just copying the ballots onto this spreadsheet so everyone can follow along the vote. And this will just take a second.
No.
Well, that's an interesting combination, Lex Luthor and Bruce Wayne.
Right, I know.
Both are very wealthy. Common denominator. Both Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor are quite wealthy.
Another one.
Yeah.
And this can be done by hand with this spreadsheet too, if you don't want to do it on the
No,
computer.
we're intrigued. Keep typing. This is better than the World Series. There's a law and order person there.
So are the students who are here, are you here for a specific class? AP Government, and you live in Eagle River?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Mr. Dyson. I assume you invited them?
No.
No.
Good things
Thank you
happen
for
easily
welcoming
without me.
Wonder Woman's at her.
Yeah.
Well, everyone knows this is
But these kids are with the government class.
Yeah, AP, it sounds like advanced placement.
Are you guys familiar with ranked choice voting at all?
I think we've heard about it.
We might have brought up just a brief mention of this.
Yeah.
All right, so I just copied all but one ballot.
Okay.
So much disinformation.
Are you ready, Matt?
Yes. All right, so.
Okay, so we're in G.
Yep.
So we're in the middle of G. If an applicant has a majority, there's some, is that a comma or a weird? Oh no, there's no comma. Mine has a weird dot that looks like a comma. Okay, if an applicant has a majority, that applicant is appointed. Matt, does any candidate have a majority?
No candidate has a majority.
Where
And show us where we're looking, yeah.
No, up here. Where am I seeing whether they have a majority or not? Where the totals?
Can you describe, Matt, what each of those things is that's up there and what purpose it serves?
Yes, so this is just a table of the ballots that were cast by each
The
assembly
first
member.
table.
Yep.
But it's not totaling them at the bottom.
No.
Okay. Right.
This is just shows if there's a 1 next to it, it means they ranked everyone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Right.
So if you didn't put a 6 here, it would show up right there.
Oh, I see.
So you know it's not a complete ballot.
It's complete.
Yes. So that's 100%. It's just to make sure I don't put a typing error. The ranks cast results here is how many of each rank each applicant got. So Bruce Wayne currently has 1 first ranked vote, 3 second, 2 thirds, 2 fourths, 1 fifth, and 1 sixth. And so each applicant received 10 votes, which is just another check to make sure that there was no typing error. So right here is the results, the ranked voting results. Currently in round 1, this is how many votes each candidate has. Bruce Wayne has 1 vote.
How many first place votes, correct?
Yes, one first place vote. Dick Grayson has 2, James has 1, Deanna has 3, Harleen has 2, and Lex Luther has 1. So that's currently how many votes each applicant has.
And is it correct, Matt, that the top 2 tables, sort of for reference, those are static, they're not going to change, but we're using this bottom table to recalculate per round?
Yes, these are just for reference. The top 2 are for reference.
Okay.
So why doesn't Diana win?
So Diana has 3 votes, but she doesn't have a majority. She would need 6 for a majority. So we'll get back to our language here. If an applicant has a majority, which no one does, that applicant is appointed. If no applicant has a majority, applicants shall be eliminated, so that's the first process, as follows. Little I, the municipal clerk shall eliminate the applicant or applicants with 0 first-ranked choices when applicable. Do we have any of those, Matt?
We do not, so it's
Okay.
not applicable.
So not applicable. And the applicant with the least amount of votes. So it looks like we have a number of candidates with 1 vote. If 2 applicants are tied, and there are, because there are many with 1, the clerk shall determine which one is eliminated as described in subsection A. So turn the page, we're on subsection A. In the event of a tie between applicants, the one with the least original second-ranked choices is eliminated. Matt, can you explain that and show us how we figured that out?
Yes. So since there are 3 candidates with 1 vote, we need to decide which one to eliminate. So we look at second ranked votes here. So Bruce has, Bruce has 3 second ranked votes. James has 1 second place vote. And Lex has 1 second place vote. So in this case, the second place votes are also tied.
Okay, so if the second-ranked choices are also tied, go back to the language, this process shall repeat with the lower original rankings until the tie is broken.
So in this case, the lowest tie is between James and Lex, and James has 4 third place votes, ranks.
So just to make sure it's clear, James and Lex, right,
Yes.
both have the fewest amount, and they're tied, of second choice rankings.
Yes.
So we're going to go to the third column and see which of the 2 of those candidates, or potential candidates, or no candidates, has the least amount, correct?
Yes.
And you're doing that right now, so you're comparing James and Lex.
Yes. So we can see that James has 4 third-ranked choices, and Lex only has 1, which is the fewest. So Lex will be the first applicant eliminated.
So Lex is eliminated
Which
from
I
the
will-
whole thing. Lex is no longer in the running.
Clear showing of bigotry.
He's a bad dude.
There you go. I'll just highlight that one to show that Lex was eliminated. So, you want to continue the language?
I do. Okay, so little 2, the eliminated ballots will be stricken from, eliminated applicants will be stricken from the ballots. So that's Lex. He's out of here.
So that's what I just did graphically with this gray bar. That could also be done on the paper ballot if you wanted with a pen. You just cross their name out on every ballot, since there's only 10, or however many there would be.
And then it says subsection G shall then be repeated. So I'm going to go back to G. Is this all right, Matt? Okay. Municipal clerk shall tally the results with each ballot representing 1 vote for the highest ranked applicant on that ballot.
Yep. And as we look, we could go through the ballots and we can look at this table here, and we can see that only 1 ballot has a different highest ranking candidate, which is the one where they vote for Lex, seat 1 here.
Wait, does anybody understand what that means? Are you all following? I got confused.
Say it again, please, Matt.
Okay.
Could you say it again, Matt?
Yes. So we removed Lex from all the ballots right here.
Right.
And as we can see, whoever got first place on all these ballots did not change. So the amount of votes for each of these candidates does not move. When we look at Lex's here, Bruce Wayne is now the highest ranking candidate on that ballot. So he has the vote for seat 1. We can show it here. This is the 1 vote. Seat 1's vote is moving from Lex Luthor to Bruce Wayne, which then would give Bruce 2 votes, Dick 2 votes, James 2 votes,
James 1.
James 1 vote, sorry, Daniel 3 votes.
So right now he's doing the G, first sense of G, which is tallying the results with each ballot representing 1 vote for the highest ranked applicant on that ballot.
Yes.
Right, so the highest ranked applicant for seat 1 has changed, so he's retallying.
Yep. So this shows that graphically. This is the vote from seat 1 moving to the new highest ranked applicant on their ballot, which is Bruce Wayne.
Explain that again,
Yes.
please.
Yes. So when we struck Lex from all the ballots here, we then retallied for counting each vote for the highest ranking applicant on each ballot. So Bruce Wayne is now the highest ranking applicant on seat 1.
Excuse me, but where do Lex's votes go?
So because for seat 1, for, say it was you, Mr. Dyson, who voted for Lex Luthor for first place?
Yes.
Or, is that correct? Yeah, now Lex is out, and so we look to your ballot, we look back to your ballot and see who you selected for second place.
Yes.
And then we reassign.
Lex's vote to him.
Yes. And so if that were you in this case, you selected Bruce Wayne as the second place. So now that's the highest ranking that's remaining on your ballot. And we're going to assign that in the second round of the ranked choice evaluation to Bruce Wayne.
So that you always make sure you have
So
a
that you're-
vote if your candidate, so that you always have a vote even if your candidate was eliminated.
And that's sort of the idea of this is even if your top pick isn't the candidate that wins, your second or third, or those all count in evaluating who wins overall. And so the idea is that there's more buy-in from more members on the candidate that's ultimately selected. Okay, Matt.
So this 1 vote for Lex was eliminated from Lex. Or Lex was eliminated, so his 1 vote moves to Bruce Wayne because on this ballot, Bruce is now the highest ranking applicant. And then we go to G where,
So Bruce gets 1 more vote and Lex is gone. Okay.
so this municipal clerk
So-
will tally the results.
The clerk tallied the results,
This is the new
reference to inactive ballots, which is at the end if folks want to look at the definition. If an applicant has a majority, that applicant is appointed. Do we have a majority yet?
We still do not have a majority.
Still do not, because we would need 6 for a majority. And that's That's mentioned in the charter or code elsewhere, what a majority means with respect to voting in general. If no applicant has a majority, applicants shall be eliminated as follows, and we go through this process again. So the clerk shall eliminate the applicants with 0 first-ranked choices, which we don't have. Oh,
We do not have.
we don't have because Lex is already out.
Yep.
If 2 applicants are tied, and the should eliminate the applicant with the least amount of votes.
In this case, James Gordon has 1 vote,
Okay.
which is the least amount. So James Gordon will be stricken from the ballot. Make him gray.
And we don't need to go to A in this case because there isn't a tie between the least amount of vote getters. So we're just using little I.
So this 1 vote is eliminated from James, and it transfers to.
So we're doing the same process we just did for Lex. We're taking the highest ranked on that ballot
On this ballot.
that's remaining.
2. So this 1 vote goes to seat 4's second choice, which is Dick.
Did everyone follow that? We can do it again if we need to.
Just, can you restate where you pulled the transfer vote from, please, again?
Sure. So James is eliminated. The person who voted for James in first place was seat number 4. Or is that the only one? Yeah.
Yep.
And that person's now remaining highest ranked candidate gets that vote. And that is Dick Grayson because seat 4's number 2 vote was Dick Grayson. So we go down to round 2 in the bottom. And we assign that vote. We take it from James Gordon and we move it to Dick Grayson, and then we retally.
And so when we retally, it appears Bruce has 1, Dick has 3, James was eliminated, Diana has 3, Harleen has 2, and Lex was also eliminated.
So if you looked at little 2, it just says the eliminated applicant will be stricken, and you do G again. So we're back to G, and we just keep doing this until we get a majority.
So now we tie it.
So now we're going to eliminate, if an applicant has a majority, we'll pick that one. We don't have one yet. So then we need to eliminate little I. Municipal clerk shall eliminate the applicant with 0 first-ranked choices. We don't have, well, we do have that, but those 2 have already been eliminated. And the applicant with the least amount of votes. So we have a tie with 2 being the least amount of votes of the remaining candidates, correct?
Yes. Bruce and Harleen are tied for 2, which is the lowest amount of votes.
So we use subsection A, or what we've been doing here, to determine which of those we eliminate. Matt, can you walk us through that?
Yep. Subsection A says that we will use the exact word when we have a tie between applicants. The one with the least original second ranked choices is eliminated. So we look here at second ranked choices in this column. We see that Bruce Lane has 3 second ranked choices and Harleen has 2 second ranked choices. So she is the eliminated applicant. And then we go to II, the eliminated applicant will be stricken from the ballot, which is what I am doing now.
Great. And then we do G all over again.
And we do G one more time. So she had 2 votes.
Well, I guess we should see the tally before I announce that, maybe not.
So this I'm now retallying. Harleen has, here we go. So seats 7's highest rankings applicant is now Diana. So she receives +1. And then we go to the second one. Seat. There we go. Seat 10, his highest ranking applicant is also now Diana, so she gets +2. And then we have 2 for Bruce, 3 for Dick, 0 for James, who's eliminated, 5 for Diana, 0 for Harley because she was eliminated, and 0 for Lex because she was eliminated. He was eliminated.
Can I ask? The tiebreaker between Bruce and Harley Quinn. I thought Bruce would be staying in and Harley Quinn eliminated. How did you eliminate Harley Quinn?
Right, Bruce stays in.
Yeah, Bruce stays in because he has 3, and Harley is eliminated because she has 2.
I thought Bruce would be, because he's got one first rank vote. He has this first rank votes that Harlequin. Should not look at the first rank votes.
No, second rank votes.
Okay.
Second rank votes. Because these ones are the originals, so they're here. So it's a second ranked vote that we look at to break ties.
So is it fair to say, Matt, then, that we run through the rank cast results each time we have a tie, we use a column of those? But only when we have a tie.
Only when you have a tie,
So it
yeah.
doesn't line up one for one because we didn't have a tie in round 2.
Exactly.
So we've used the first round of rank cast results in round 1 because we had a tie. We didn't need it in round 2, and then we used the second column of rank cast results in round 3 because we had a tie again. That's how that corresponds on those different charts.
You always start with the second to break a tie.
But once we've used the column, it's done.
No, you always start with the second.
And that
break
first
tie.
time we used the second, that didn't break the tie, so we went to the third votes to finally break the tie, so you work your way down.
Because you're always determining who's first, and so you're always using the seconds
So-
to build that.
So if we had a tie again, which column in the rank cast results would we go to? The second again?
The second again, yeah.
Okay, I'm with you, sorry.
So now with our new tally, we can start at G again, right? And see if we have a majority. We
Yep.
don't, we're close, but we don't have a majority. So if no applicant has a majority, the municipal clerk shall eliminate the applicant with 0 first choices when applicable, or the applicant with the least amount of votes. So in this case, that's Bruce Wayne.
Yep, so Bruce Wayne is eliminated.
Bruce Wayne is eliminated.
Or Batman.
Suzanne,
I always love
probably
Christian
better
Bale.
over here so you can see.
Thanks, Jeff.
So Bruce
Okay,
Wayne.
eliminate applicants are stricken from the record pursuant to G little 2, and subsection G shall then be repeated.
Yes.
So the only ones we have left now are Wonder Woman and Dick Grayson.
We have to distribute Bruce's votes.
Yes, so
Yeah.
these 2 votes are removed from Bruce Wayne. And we look here, we see that Bruce had seat 2 voted for Bruce in first. So we look at the highest ranking applicant on this ballot, which is now Dick.
The highest ranking applicant that remains.
Yes, that remains.
And that's Dick Grayson.
Plus 1.
Yeah.
And as we see,
Yeah, how's this work?
Yeah, so how does this work if only one of them was a first ranked? How do you reassign? You only reassign the first ranked?
so, I see what you're saying. So in this case, Bruce Wayne has 2 votes because one of them was transferred
Mm-hmm.
from Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
So that vote transfers again. It follows the ballot.
So we look back to the Lex Luthor
Yeah,
first
so
place ballot.
This first place ballot, they went from Lex to Bruce. And so the highest ranked applicant on this ballot is now Dick again.
Mhm.
So that is plus
Should we go
2.
over that again?
Yeah, one more time.
No, I don't need to go over it again, but doesn't that weigh one person's vote more than the others then?
It, do I have it on this table? It does not, because each seat only has 1 vote. There's still only 10 votes. So when we retally, you'll see that this is 0, 5, 0, 5, 0.
Oh, darn.
I didn't make it long enough, sorry. So there's still only 10 votes, because there's 10 voting members.
Just that one individual, that seat had to dig deep to
Yeah.
get to someone that remained throughout the voting.
Okay.
So right
So
now,
it'd be like compromising in the traditional way.
yeah. So seat 1 is now on their 4th choice, because all the rest were eliminated.
Seat one's probably not
So
gonna win.
now we have a tie, so we don't have a majority, so what do we do now, Matt?
We, again, go to A, in the event of a tie between applicants. Well, the least original second ranked choice is eliminated. So we look at Dick and Diana, who had the least second ranked choices is eliminated. In this case, Dick has 1 and Diana has 2.
So Dick is
So
eliminated.
Dick is eliminated.
And now we have a majority. Oh, sorry. I'm
And now
skipping
only
ahead.
Diana's the only remaining candidate.
Yeah, that's true.
So you know that all those move over. Sorry, I didn't make my table big
No,
enough.
it's okay. I get it.
So she would have 10. This is total votes.
So Diana, that is Wonder Woman, right?
Yes.
Kind of like that being better, but so she wins. Should we look back? I think it'd be interesting to look back at how many first, second, and third votes she got, and so on, compared to the other candidates, just to see if it feels fair and right that now that we've been through that process, that she would win.
Yes. So.
She had the most amount of first place votes.
Yes, she had the most amount of first place votes. She had
Second amount of second place votes,
Tied
really
second.
close.
tied for second
And she
again.
had quite a few third place.
She also had 0 sixth place votes,
Mhm.
a few fifth place votes, and 0 fourth place votes.
So she's kind of weighted more heavily toward the front. So she didn't have a majority to begin with, but sort of taken in
She was the-
totality, she had a lot of votes compared to some other candidates that up in the first, second, third.
Yeah. She was the most favored initial candidate and ended up being the most favored overall by everybody.
I find it interesting. It's the good illustration that ranked choice voting kind of brings people toward kind of maybe their middle ground, because Dick Grayson, when you look at him initially, he only had 2 first rank, 1 second rank, and then he really wasn't in the mix till the 4th and 5th. So I think that's kind of demonstrates that it if you have a spectrum of candidates, that it kind of finds maybe who the compromise is. Because I don't think I would have intuited that it was going to be him and Diana.
Yeah.
So I'll just show you this graphically again. It'll take a second for me to type it. But you can show with a little bit of math which candidate was preferred overall the most by everybody, because you can assign them a score. So first place is worth 6 points because there's 6 candidates in this case. Second is worth 5. So it's just an inverse relationship between the two. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
So right now I'm just writing, I'm saying this vote's worth 6 points, this vote is worth 5 points.
Well, this
So
is the other way
while
to do
Matt
it.
is doing that, 'cause you're going to do it with each one of them, right?
Yeah,
To show.
I should have said it once.
I just wanted to point out that, it might be that if we did the traditional voting, Diana would have been top but not had a majority, so we would have kept voting in the traditional way, and people would have probably not been like, oh, James, he only has 1 first place, he's probably not going to win, that's my candidate. I'll vote for the person I like the second best, I'll vote for, anyway, I don't know which one it was, but the point is that this sort of mimics what you would do normally. You just don't have to keep voting over and over and over and over again. You just say at the beginning, this is who I like the best, and then we calculate it. So even though it seems fairly complex, it's actually more efficient than voting over and over and over again. And it better represents the broader members who are serving who they believe the best candidate is.
Bob has a comment he'd like
Yes.
to share, and he worked with us. If we might have him
Yeah.
stand up, and you need to say your name for the record, please.
Okay, I'm Bob Butera, and I'm actually with a group that's recently formed in Anchorage called Fair Vote Anchorage. And our goal is to bring ranked choice voting, which you're doing here, to the general election in Anchorage. So different from what you're doing here, bringing it to just replacing an assembly member. We're looking at bringing this to the general election. And one of the big reasons is that because ranked choice voting is also called instant recall voting, or instant runoff voting, excuse me. And typically in a mayoral election particularly, we often get into a second election, which is really expensive, especially with the mail-in ballots now. So we're looking at this as a big cost savings measure for the municipality. And we're also looking at it because it's a really fair way to vote. Now what you're doing here is interesting because it's not a typical use of ranked choice voting. because it gets into these multiple rounds which Matt just went into. But when you have a group of people that's greater than 10, like 200,000, well, ideally we'd have 200,000 voters, but the ties sort of go away, and the ranked choice voting works out really neatly toward the front and keeps us from having a second election. So, just a little comment.
Mr. Chair, so I logically conclude that this is only for nonpartisan races where there's no primary. This.
It can be used for either, but the Anchorage races are nonpartisan.
Right.
So.
But if we went to a larger venue, like state elections, it would work.
It would work, yes.
Could you comment on what is going on at the state level? Because if you
I could. Alaskans for Better Elections has a initiative out right now, and they're not related to us. But on that initiative, they have 4 things that they're trying to accomplish. One is an open primary. One is ranked choice voting. Or second is ranked choice voting. The third is exposing where dark money comes from. And the fourth is the I covered that. The fourth,
dark money.
Dark money and ranked choice voting and Citizens United. They're trying to put an amendment in for that. So there's a lot covered in that ballot initiative, and we are generally supportive of it, but the state has said that because there's so much in that ballot initiative that it's not a single item.
Yeah, single subject.
And as I understand it, that's right in court now. They're debating that, so I don't know where that's going to go. And we are actually holding off a little bit on doing anything in the municipality to see what happens with that. We're trying to let them take the lead because there's a big educational process for the voters that goes on with ranked choice voting. And if we can let them do that educational process for us, we're happy to let them do it. So we're in a holding pattern on what we're trying to do with the city versus the state. That make sense? Okay.
Yeah, John?
I mean, I think in regards to Fred's comment on the primaries, I think aren't for the Democrats for president or something here using ranked choice? I don't really understand party politics, but it's something like that.
The Democratic National Party or Democratic State Party of Alaska is using ranked voting this year to decide the primary election, since there are so many candidates
For the president.
For the president, yes.
And if I can, something we talked about during our elections and ethics committee meeting on Wednesday is that one advantage of ranked choice voting, we think, sort of anecdotally, and you guys experts could probably confirm this, but is that it might reduce negative campaigning because you're not trying to hate on one of the candidates because people can rank them. And so it's not these 2 people, one against the other. It's the 2 front runners against the other. Do you think that's true? Again, this doesn't really apply. I don't think these people for a vacancy are campaigning, but anyway.
I'm not sure I totally heard your question, but ranked choice voting solves a lot of problems when it gets rid of the second election when you don't have a majority. But the big thing it does is it assures a majority for whoever the winner is. So when you bring it down to the end, there is a majority. That versus when you have more than 2 people in an election, and say you have 3 and someone wins by less than 50%, that person was not elected by a majority. But in ranked choice voting, it always is a majority that elects. So that's one of the big advantages.
Thanks, Bob. So what I asked is if in regular elections, not in this situation, if the negative campaigning might be lessened.
Yeah, that's another advantage is because if you're a candidate and you do a negative campaign, then you may not get enough second choice votes to push you into the lead.
Right.
So it avoids negative campaigning, which is a huge advantage. Yeah, much more civil.
Yeah, go ahead, Fred.
And what does it do to when called crossover votes, where people from one perspective of party will vote for the least qualified committee or candidate.
Yeah, that gets into another advantage of ranked choice voting, which is it eliminates the spoiler effect. So if you want to take the most common example of that is the Ralph Nader effect, where people wanted to vote for Ralph Nader, but they didn't want to throw their vote away. So in ranked choice voting, they could vote for Ralph Nader, and they could also put their second choice vote in for whoever they thought might win. And so they're not throwing a vote away when they do that. I don't know if I explained that well enough, but
Ross Perot is another really good example of that.
My name is Carson. I'm with Fairmont. I'm with Bob in Fairmont Anchorage, and there's one of the things I've noticed about this is this affects both parties, right? So Ralph Nader is a good example of how the left got kind of messed up in that election because a lot of those people might have voted for Gore. Okay? But this also can go the other direction, and the best example of that is Ross Perot. So there was a lot of people that wanted to vote for Ross Perot, but felt like, well, I don't want to throw my vote away on an independent, so they voted for George Bush. But there's a lot of people that said, you know what, I don't care. I think he's got a shot. I'm going to vote for him. Okay. So in this situation, well, probably I would say almost everybody that wanted to vote for Ross Perot, wanted him favorite, probably would have just ranked him first, and George Bush the first, second. And everybody that voted for Bush would have done Ross Perot the second. So yeah, you have that situation if you got like 60% Republicans in a district, 40% Dems. If you run two Republicans, that Democrat will take 40% of the vote, and those Republicans will split. And this can affect either way. If you have 60% Democrats and 40% Republicans, and the Republicans run one person, the Democrats run two, those Democrats will split the vote. So 40% of people will decide the election instead of 60%.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So I have one question. So there's, I think, one really important voice that's missing in the room, and that's the person that would actually run this if, in the rare chance we actually ended up using this method. So Barbara's not here. Does anyone know what Barbara thinks about this?
John, Meg, Dean, and Matt, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but at first she was resistant because it's confusing and didn't want to be on the spot up there on the dais trying to figure this out in front of a lot of people. But after practicing it, Barbara became one of our biggest experts. It was actually teaching the rest of us how to do it along with Matt. And I would say that I feel completely comfortable saying that Barbara understands this and is comfortable with it. Do you all agree with that? Everyone's nodding yes, I think.
Yeah. This spreadsheet that I have on the board here, I also printed and sent to Barbara. And when we go through this, she would literally just fill this out by hand, and then that's exactly how it works. And she got it, she understood it.
And a lot of Barbara's comments were what my comments, we had similar comments, which is this needs to read exactly what you would do so that there's no confusion, because this is very confusing in general. The result is great, but the process is confusing. And so we spent a lot of time, Dean would write sections, Matt would add to it, then I would add to it, and others too, and making this like a formula. And so I think that the language now is a formula, and anyone could follow it, because we know that Barbara might not always be here, and we need to understand it generally from reading it.
Yeah, I guess one more thing. So I demonstrated this for everyone here on this Excel sheet, but the way the language is written, you can do it with the paper ballots. So like when you you have your stacks for each candidate. So say this candidate is now eliminated, you can literally move these over into the stack, and that however many stacks in that vote, that's how many votes that person has. So you can literally just cross the name off and move a ballot physically in front of everyone, so it's very obvious what's happening in the process.
Matt, we only have a couple minutes, so did you want to highlight your math bit that you've completed now?
Oh, yes.
So go back to that.
So someone asked how we know that Diana was the most preferred candidate. You can see she had 3 first place votes here, which is a good start. But if you assign a point value to each rank, so 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just an inverse relationship, you actually get a score of their overall preference. So in this case, Diana had an overall score of 42, which is 1. So you can see that the most preferred candidate ended up winning.
Matt, do you need to do all this ranked choice mumbo jumbo when you could just do that math?
Yes, because this math is just a display of the results. There is a system.
We'll do it, but
there's a system that does this, but for our situation with 10 voters, it would not work.
Bob and the other gentleman whose name I didn't catch are eager to respond to this.
Yeah, I have one more comment, and that's, it's funny because when Matt came up with this whole idea to use ranked choice voting for this, we as a group were a little bit skeptical, and we actually had Matt come to our board meeting and explain it to us, and we went through what all you had, and we're impressed. This really, really works. And with so few applicants, no matter what we did, we'd come up with these huge amount of ties, and it would get to the end, and it worked. And it was, we were blown away by how well it worked, even though we were skeptical at the beginning. So I'll add that to that.
Good job.
I wanted to say on the points values, you know, that had been discussed as one method to try to calculate ranked choice voting at the outset, but that maybe wasn't a one person, one vote cast situation. So this is just kind of a backup to show the validity of it. And that's one of the reasons that we don't do the math as a way forward, because that is another form of ranked choice voting.
I want to answer your question. Why don't we just use the board? I'm not sure the score thing is called Borda.
Yeah.
Is the word for it. The reason you don't want to do it for elections is very simple. If you want to give your number one candidate the best shot, you're better off just ranking them one in that situation, because that gives them the most points relative to the rest of the field. It defeats the whole purpose to do it by itself. As a method of deciding ties, though, it's really good.
Yeah, and you want to look after the fact with the integrity of the ranking process having been kept intact. Okay.
Yeah, and the reason there's all these extra numbers on here, like this shows that 100% of the ballot was filled out. This shows that there's 10 votes, 10 ranks per applicant, which means each member did it. And then we come down here, there's 10 voting members, and there's a total of 10 votes, which is 1 vote per person, which is how we do it here.
Yeah, we got that.
Okay, well, thanks for everyone working through this, and I got to thank Matt for his work. He's been with us at every meeting, going through this, very patient with us as we've kind of figured it out, and he's really done the bulk of the writing here, I think, to make this spelled out. And I had gone to capstone presentations, I think a year and a half ago, for someone at UAA who had helped me on a project, and I missed his presentation, but I caught Matt's and the others, and was impressed. But one thing is that Matt's done great, but also that we're using UAA students to do some of these projects. I've done it twice, so I hope that continues, and we have UAA interns work on things like this, move us forward.
Thanks, Felix. I was actually just going to say the same thing. The reason we're doing this is because of Matt, and because he reached out to us and helped us understand this. So, and he's been there. How many meetings? 6 meetings or something. So, anyway, thanks, Matt.
I suggest, Mr. Chair, that we do something formal in writing to recognize the folks that were so helpful in all this.
Yeah, and Bob and others too. I mean, it's.
So they can attach it to their resume somewhere downstream.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'll close this work session.